r/NoSleep. Posted by CIAHerpes. I found my family's corpses buried in the forest. So who has been living with me in my house? Part 5. I could see panic spread through the group as I told them what Alice and I had seen. Agent Kellarson demanded his M4 service rifle back. "That gun is government property," he said petulantly, like a child demanding a toy. "It is by all rights registered to me." "You lost your rights to the gun when you tried to kill me," I said, raising the barrel and putting it in his face. "If you want it back, then try to take it. I dare you. Come get it." Richie got in between the two of us, pushing us apart. "Come on, guys," he said. "We've got enough problems without killing each other. We're wasting time standing here arguing, and the clock is running down quickly." He pulled his phone out of his pocket, checking the time. "It's already been over 2 hours. We have a little less than an hour left until the time limit runs out and whatever they're planning to do comes about. I don't think we want to be anywhere near here when that happens." Alice continuously complained about the pain in her leg. She pulled her pants leg up to show me the angry red splotches that blossomed around the stitches. A small trickle of dark, almost black blood ran down her leg, and I saw it had already stained her pants on one side. "We'll get you to a doctor as soon as we get out of here," I promised her, "but you have to keep going. We can't carry you the whole way." We had reached the peak of the hills surrounding the town and begun descending. The next town over was deep in a valley, and we would have to stumble down steep, rocky trails to get there. From a distance, I heard the screaming of many powerful engines. I looked up to see fighter jets passing overhead in a blur, breaking the sound barrier. I felt the sonic boom in my bones as it passed through my body, vibrating my chest. I involuntarily clamped my teeth down on my lip when it went past, drawing a thin stream of blood. Their roaring started to fade into the distance before being punctuated by multiple explosions. I saw flashes of light exploding from the center of town, like a second sun rising in the night. A mushroom cloud of black smoke rose high into the sky, mixing with the dark clouds above. "That's not good," Agent Kellarson said, wiping sweat from his forehead as he stared dumbly back in the direction of the explosions. "Why not?" Alice asked, keeping close to my side and limping heavily, trying to avoid her injured leg and wincing every time she put weight on it. "Once they start the airstrikes, it means they have lost total control of events on the ground," he said. "You don't think they would use nuclear weapons on it, do you?" Richie asked. Agent Kellarson shook his head. "No, that would raise too many red flags," he answered. "Radioactivity gets out and spreads, and it is detected by people all around the world. That's how some people in Europe knew about the Chernobyl nuclear explosion even before the Soviet government announced it. No, they would contain it with high-yield conventional explosives and artillery, and if that failed, they would likely spray chemical weapons until the area became uninhabitable for 100 years. They have enough secret stockpiles to wipe out 100 towns this size without making a sizable dent. They might decide to drop VX nerve gas or cyclosarin from crop dusters and helicopters, and when they do, we want to be far upwind of the target area. What if we just get to the next town over and discover the same kind of shit happening?" I asked, seeing a nightmarish vision of empty streets littered with murdered bodies. I think my will would have broken if I had arrived there and found it filled with psychotic twins, especially after the loss of my family and very likely the deaths of all my friends who lived nearby, except, of course, Richie. Little did I realize at the time that some of our group would not see the next town. Within minutes, 2 of us would die. I was walking next to Richie, with Alice limping along in front of us. Agent Kellarson walked in the rear, continuously checking the trail behind us for signs of stalking. I felt watched from all sides. "I wonder what kind of fuel that craft runs on," Richie was saying, "hydrogen fusion or antimatter, or maybe some sort of quantum state we don't even know about yet." "Actually, the government has reverse-engineered at least one of the craft," Agent Kellarson said. "It had an outer shell composed of a spinning substrate called a Bose-Einstein condensate, a type of superfluid that defies gravity, and in the center. But we never got to hear about the engine." In a blur, 2 figures ran out of the bushes, wielding axes dripping with blood. With eyes bulging, I saw my doppelganger swinging the axe down towards my head. I felt as if I saw it all in slow motion. I raised the automatic rifle and pulled the trigger. The recoil made the gun raise up high as a burst of gunfire shattered the nighttime silence. The bullets missed the doppelganger by mere inches, smashing into trees a few inches above his head and raining splinters down on his hair and face. Realizing I had run out of time, I tried to lunge to the side, but the axe caught me hard in the right shoulder. I felt it slice through the skin and shatter the collarbone below. I fell back, my arm going numb from the sudden shock of the brutal attack. As I landed on the ground, the wind getting knocked out of my lungs, I saw Agent Kellarson stumbling back, the blade of an axe sunk deep into his forehead. He raised his hand to his spurting face, smacking his forehead as if he had just remembered something important. His lips opened, gasping, his legs trembling and wavering before he fell forwards, the impact forcing the axe deeper into his skull. His murderer, his identical twin, lunged forward, wrenching at the axe, trying to pull it free. With every jerk to the left and right, more great gouts of blood gushed out. Richie fought back against his doppelganger. I saw his lunatic twin raising a gleaming butcher's knife. Richie had his hands up as if in supplication, the small paring knife held loosely in one hand as he tried to back away. The doppelganger began to swing the blade wildly back and forth, 2 strokes slicing deep into Richie's chest. And then Alice began to scream behind me. I turned to see her crawling away from the mayhem. A small silhouette crouched in the bushes only a few feet away, only the white, grinning teeth showing in the thick shadows of the brush, gleaming like some demonic Cheshire cat. As if stuck in some nightmarish vision, I saw our group being slaughtered from all sides. Slowly, too slowly, I grabbed for the gun, seeing the flash of metal out of the corner of my eye as my doppelganger came in for the killing blow. I raised the gun above my head at the last possible moment, bracing myself for the blow. The blade came down on the side of the gun, sending jarring vibrations racing through my body. My shoulders felt like they had nearly gotten pulled out of their sockets, but at least I was alive. I spun the barrel towards his face, pulling the trigger. It blew apart his cheeks and nose, and for a moment, I saw into my own skeletal face, the grinning teeth half blown to shards as the figure swayed like a boxer before a knockout. Then he fell forwards, landing heavily on top of me, covering me with my own blood, a somehow familiar stickiness and smell emanating from it as it flowed out. I fought against the corpse, kicking and rolling. The dead weight of it pressed the gun down on my chest. I heard Alice's pained shrieks, and even more terrifying, nothing at all from Richie. As I rolled my doppelganger's corpse off myself, heaving with a sudden burst of energy, I realized I couldn't move or feel my right hand. I looked down and saw it, white and pale, laying as limp as a dead starfish. Using my left, I grabbed the gun, turning towards Agent Kellarson's doppelganger. I saw him standing over Richie's dead body, swinging the axe again and again into the meat of Richie's chest. Richie lay there, staring at me, his eyes wide and horrified, his eyes seeming to become black as his pupils dilated in death. With every blow from the axe, his head shook, as if he were saying no. I shot the agent's doppelganger, my vision turning blurry for a moment. The burst of gunfire made my ears ring. With the shrieking tinnitus blurring my hearing, I turned towards Alice. I saw 2 Alices, dressed in identical clothing, both covered in blood and cuts. They bit and grabbed at each other, and I had no idea what to do. Then I realized one of the doppelgangers was missing. I heard the rustling of bushes directly behind me. In the top of my vision, I saw the knife coming down. I rolled, but it slammed hard into my white, dead palm, pinning the numb hand in the ground as blood rushed out from the wound. With my other hand, I raised the gun and pointed it at the grinning figure of Richie. Without hesitation, I fired, opening up multiple holes in the center of his chest. I turned back to the Alices, wondering what the hell I should do. But as I looked over, I found I was too late. One stood over the other, choking her, pinning her to the ground. The girl on top had blood seeping from her leg, and I had a surge of hope. That must be the real Alice. The other one's face turned purple, deepening and darkening into a sickly suffocating shade, her lips turning blue. As she died, a wave of heat and light overtook us. An explosion rocked the earth moments later, shockwaves passing through the ground. I turned back to the town, seeing a massive mushroom cloud rising high up in the air. It seemed nothing was left of it. In front of the massive ball of fire and smoke that emanated from the center area, a large blue cloud glimmered in the air. Soon, I saw the alien craft, speeding towards us in a blur, leaving the area that they had just obliterated. They came right towards Alice and me, the ship hovering above the trees. Moments later, the humanoid, skinned beings faded into existence in front of me. I still stood on the ground with a gushing wound and a dead hand, stunned and in agony. Alice looked no better, covered in blood, her leg wound ripped open again, her face white and pale. She was breathing fast and trembled, looking like she might collapse. She stared at the 3 beings that manifested in front of us with a blank look on her face. "You 2 are the last ones left alive," the one in front said, its bone-white tentacles writhing like snakes. Behind the massive tentacles on its face, I caught glimpses of 2 intelligent, round eyes, pure white and lidless. They looked moist and glistened like opal, shining with rainbows and colors. "Barely," I whispered. The being took out a strange, black vial. With a reverent stance, he knelt down before me, cradling my head in his long, twisted hand. Then he took some of my blood from the wound. He stood and walked over to Alice, repeating this strange ritual. Then he talked to the others in a strange, guttural language with clicks and hisses mixed in randomly, the cadence fast and excited. He turned back to me. "You're a survivor. You both are. You have proven yourselves worthy. You are worthy of life. When the cleansing comes, the time of renewal, we will exterminate all life unworthy of life, and start your people anew from the blood of the survivors. A second Adam and a second Eve. Perhaps this time, they will actually be created in the image of God, the true God ourselves." I saw at that moment that the two aliens behind him held small, black canisters in their hands. One walked over to me and another walked over to Alice, spraying us both in the face. The world spun, and then my vision went black, and I felt myself being lifted up before I was gone completely. I woke up in a hospital in the state capital. Alice was in the next room. We had no memory of how we got there or who dropped us off. After all was said and done, I ended up losing most of my right arm in an emergency surgery. The injury from the axe wound had severed nerve endings and caused severe blood loss to the entirety of the limb, causing irreversible oxygen deprivation and permanent tissue death. The surgeon said I got to them just in time. But as the months passed, I felt I lost something much more fundamental, something greater. I've been in contact with Alice's foster family, and they said she's acting strange and not talking. I wonder if I made a mistake. The entire experience was a nightmare I want to erase from my memory forever. It led to the death of my family and friends and the crippling of my body. I can only hope I never see those writhing bone-white tentacles again.